Right from the beginning of Mechanical Mashup, Dave's been all cool like this. And breaking all the child labor laws, just like this.
Hey Sim, pass me a half-inch wrench.
Well, you know what, Dave? That's it. I'm tired of being the geek. Draft in engineering is the amount of taper put into a part.
Bueller.
And to start, what I have here, this here is a Solido SD300. Do you know what it is? It's a 3D printer. You don't have a 3D printer, Dave? 3D printers? That's cool. Who says you can't buy popularity? So on today's episode, what we're going to cover is a shoulder mount for a video camera. I've got a small video camera on here, and it's really stable. You can get some great shots out of it, and it's made out of just a few dollars of PVC parts. But I also saw some improvements that could be done to make this thing a whole lot better. So we went into the Solido printer, we printed off some special parts, and we'll go from there. But don't get me wrong, you don't need one of these printers to build this. I'll show you how to build this way, and then I'll show you the parts to upgrade and make something like this look a whole lot more professional and usable. To build one of these things, you're going to need some 3/4 inch PVC pipe, two 90-degree PVC elbows, a clip-on T, which is a 1-inch fitting with some 1-inch pipe in it, and it already has a reducer down to 3/4 inch. You can buy these at the local hardware store, or you can buy a 1-inch to 1-inch with a reducer. At any rate, I will show you a clip from one of the previous episodes, episode 2 to be exact. I recommend you go and watch it, but I'll give you the clip on how to build one of these bad boys. You need a 45-degree elbow, and finally, in the electrical section, you will find a 90-degree bend. It's a gray ABS pipe. You can go into the electrical section and find one of those things, and then you also find some pipe insulation, which again, that comes in the plumbing section. Now I'll show you how to build this bad boy. So one thing I forgot to mention is that you're going to need a PVC plug, a 3/4 inch plug, and you're going to drill a hole in it. You're going to throw a 1/4 by 20 3/4 inch long bolt into it, and then you're going to fill in the back with whatever kind of goop you can find that will fill it in, and just hold that there. And that will be how you spin this on to your camera, and that will be what mounts into the T that you have right here, so that it mounts onto the camera. First of all, I'd like to thank Solido USA for loaning me a printer to try out, a 3D printer. Now this thing is super cool. What it does is it lays out a really thin layer of PVC plastic, then it puts some glue on it, and it also puts an anti-glue around the outside where it doesn't want to glue and cuts out the outline, then lays down another layer of plastic and goes through that process 200, 300, 400 times depending on the thickness of the part, and slowly but surely you can build up things like this. Now this is quite a complex shape. It is an épée handle for people who do fencing. I'm trying to make this one a little more ergonomic for my hand, and well, what better way to prototype than to, well, use a 3D printer. This would have taken me hours and hours to model and carve. Solido has been so kind as to loan us one of their printers. I'm going to spread the love around a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold a contest, and you can win a 3D print of whatever model you want. You either design it yourself on things like SolidWorks or SketchUp or some other 3D CAD modeling, or you can find something online. Go to thingiverse.com for instance, and there's a ton of 3D parts that can be printed out. There's a pile of 3D resources out there with lots of interesting toys, or you can use yours truly. You give me a good idea for a design, I'll help you design it out and print it. Part of the deal is that it has to be 8.3 inches tall, 6.3 inches deep, and 5.3 inches wide. That is the maximum working area, and well, I'll print that off as soon as the contest is over. So how do you enter this contest, you ask? Well, go to the URL that you see down there, and when you go to that URL you'll find a link to dig.com. When you go to dig.com, I need you to click on it and dig us. So what will happen there is, if you don't have a dig username or password, basically you have to create one, or you can log in using Facebook, that's fine. And at that point it will dig us and it'll bring us up in popularity and get us better known throughout the web. And then what I'll do in the end of 2 weeks, when Dave's next episode comes up, is I'll look through all the digs that were done and I'll randomly choose one of the people in that whole list and I'll contact you through dig. So that's how you enter. So don't forget, go to this URL, click on the dig link, and help us get known. One of the first improvements that I'm going to make here is that you need to glue all these pieces together, and if you're trying to throw this into your duffel sack, it's kind of a pain. It's an awkward shape, it doesn't work all that well, so I wanted to dismantle it. What I did is I came up with a little PVC fitting. Now the Solido printer prints out PVC, and I made a ring with a little pin in it, and that snaps over top of this fitting here. There's a little tiny hole in there. So what I can do now is I drill a hole, and this is fairly high tolerance here, so once you get it in there you can't move anything around and it locks everything in and it won't fall apart. So I made a whole bunch of these rings and I started snapping things down. The thing you got to keep in mind here as well is that this piece here, where the camera sits, the snap fittings are pretty tight and they're very hard to move around, but they're not impossible to move around. So I made some larger rings, just like this one here, and I can just snap this guy on here, and now it won't rotate at all. So you repeat that process throughout all the fittings at all the different points, like this 45-degree elbow. And the whole thing snaps together. It's nice and solid. It's at the geometry you want, and well, it's really quick. And I would have never been able to do that without a 3D printer. Well, I probably could have. It would have taken me way more time. So now all I have to do is pack up a bunch of little straight pieces and I can wrap all these up really quickly into a duffel bag. So it makes it a lot better to use as a part. Now the second improvement I made is that there's a few professional videographers I've met and they liked my gear, but they were afraid that it didn't look professional enough. First thing I noticed is that having your hands at 90 degrees holding the camera wasn't all that comfortable. You probably wouldn't notice, but after a long period of time it would be kind of nice if you just held your hands out like this. You'll notice that they're about 10 degrees off 90. So I made some internal fittings like this that actually match up really nicely with the edge of the PVC pipe, and it looks, once I paint this, it will look nice and seamless. Again, I might want to make this disassemblable. Is that a word? Disassemblable? Don't know. Anyhow, what I did is I drilled some holes here and I just made a smaller snap fitting. So if you want to have a piece that you can disassemble, you can do that as well. And that just makes everything nice and seamless. Back here you could do another 45. I just wanted to do these 90s to give you an idea that you can make something professional and you can do it quite quickly. So there you go. After doing all this design, or actually it was just before I did all this design, I was looking for a pin that would fit into the PVC and I wouldn't need to use, like, you could run a bolt through. The problem is that you have to deal with nuts and washers and everything, and there's a few too many pieces to lose. So I decided to do this little clip, and before I design anything, I always look online to see if I could find it. I couldn't find anything like that. Now, if you've seen something like this online, please let me know. I'd like to see who manufactures it and purchase some from them. But on the same note is, if you find this quite interesting, I'd be willing to make a few of these and sell them to you people if you're interested in it, and well, check the viability of a business based off of these little clips. Another little innovation I did with the clips too is I made an extra clip with a tiny hole in it so that I place it onto the elbow or whatever fitting I'm using, and now I can just drill into there and make sure that the drill is going in at the right angle at the right spot, and that all the clips will end up working the way they should and locking everything in. So make sure you leave comments in the comment section. If you've seen these, let me know where I can find them. And if you're interested in these, let me know how much you think they're worth and how many you'd like to buy, and maybe I can work something out with you. I'd like to thank Solido USA for loaning me one of their printers and showing me sort of what's in the future with 3D printing. Pretty amazing stuff when you can start printing off little parts that you need to test and be able to, well, basically test them and see how well they work. Making functional parts off of a printer is a pretty amazing thing. So again, thank you Solido, and I'd like you to check out their website at solidousa.com.